Welcome to the Rise to Thrive podcast. Rise to Thrive is your real talk resource to elevate your life and business through growth, wellness, and manifestation. With your co-host, Linda Tate, financial advisor turned life and wealth strategist, founder of Leela Life, and self-named Nordic shaman, and Amelia Travis, yoga teacher turned multi-six-figure business coach, founder of Stoked Yogi, and spiritual warrior. We're here to help you level up and create the life you imagine, sharing inspiration and strategy to elevate vibes and consciousness so you can rise to your best self and thrive as your best self. Tune in weekly to Thrive Daily. Tuning in now. It's 2019 and your investments can be in alignment with the world you are creating. Change Finance is not your normal Wall Street company. They are woman-owned and offer investments that change the world. Go to change-finance.net/MBTY to learn more and start investing today. Change Finance is a registered investment advisor. This is not an offer to buy or sell any product. Good day, Rise to Thrivers. Welcome to your latest episode with your co-hosts Linda Tate and Amelia Travis, and our special guest today, Courtney Baker. We are excited to share an amazing episode with you. Amelia.
What's up, you guys? What's up, party people? Welcome back to Rise to Thrive. I am so excited to share today's episode with you because Courtney Baker is one of my favorite people in the whole world. She also happens to be my business coach. Courtney is a six-figure business coach for women launching an online coaching business. So she is the expert who helped me gain mastery over my online marketing strategies and gain the confidence that I needed to reach multi-six figures in my business. I can say with a little bit of bragging that within 1 month of working with Courtney, I went from being really fucking terrified to book high ticket coaching clients or long-term coaching clients to making over $40,000 within the first 6 weeks of us working together. So she's been absolutely transformative in my life because she has a kind of tough love, no bullshit approach to coaching where she really just holds the mirror and asks you to do the emotional work to overcome the stuff that you need to overcome to be the highest version of yourself. So Courtney, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you for that intro. That might be the best intro that I've gotten. And now I'm all emotional going into this. But
yes. Start crying right away.
So good.
Oh man, you guys, she is so good. She warrants that introduction and more. And we're just super excited to share Courtney's knowledge and story with you guys today because, 1 hour with Courtney can deliver a shit ton of impact. And so that's kind of the goal today is to pick her brain about her best marketing strategies, how to make money even with a small audience online, and really how owning your story and owning your past is one of your greatest assets and greatest powers that you can leverage in business, whether you're a coach or not. I think as any service-based entrepreneur who's trying to gain clients or grow an audience online, it's important to own your story. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's kind of the basis of everything I do is using that story.
Yeah. Well, then let's start there. I would love for you to share with our listeners the quickie version of your professional past. So you've been in the coaching industry for 11 years, which is you're kind of a dinosaur. Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur. Even I'm also really still pretty young. I hope I can still consider myself young.
She's in her, how old are you? 29?
29.
Yes. She's a young, hip, beautiful dinosaur.
Trying to place okay, so she, how old?
I got started when I was 18, which is why when people are like, how old are you? Because you look really young comparatively to your experience. But yeah, I started when I was 18. And as much as the quick version that I can give you guys, I was in college for my nursing degree and I thought that was my path. And looking back, it was just ridiculous because I was not a person who could handle school. I was smart. I loved learning, but I hated school. I can't do structure and systems like that. So I was there and I was babysitting on the side for a bunch of different families. And one of the families that I was with, the mom decided to start a coaching business for women. And she had no idea what she was doing, but she would have me help her after I'd watch her kids for a couple hours just to help her on Facebook. and her website. And this is before Instagram. Like Instagram didn't exist back then. So it was kind of Twitter and Facebook ruled it. I had no idea what I was doing, but she would send me to trainings or buy some courses and have me do them and just go learn and figure it out. And then we would do it together. And that's really what happened. That's how it started. And it kind of snowballed from there. And eventually I dropped out of college. I decided like nursing school was not my path at all. I was glad to leave that actually. And I started in the online business world. It grew to being a business manager. I had a lot of contracts in marketing agencies throughout the last 11 years. And now we're here today where I'm business coaching for other coaches.
And this was like when it was the wild, wild west of the internet in some ways.
Yeah, like nobody knew. Like if you hear people talking about like how like the coaching industry kind of got started, in my opinion, I feel like it kind of started with like Tony Robbins when he had those tapes and people would play his tapes. This wasn't like that long ago, but if you said I'm a coach, people would think sports and not like a life coach. And you say life coach, they're like, what is that? Right? Like even then it wasn't a thing. Even now it's still kind of like, what is that? So back then it was a free for all, and everybody that was doing it was like in their 40s and 50s. Nobody was young. Never mind having like an 18-year-old cocky little kid like myself that was like, I can do it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I can do it. Right. So I kind of owned my space back then purely because no one else was doing it.
So I think it's funny that you say like people didn't know what a life coach was, because somebody actually said that to me yesterday. I was talking to a friend and she was like, you know what I think super weird is when people say that they're a life coach. Like, what does that even mean? And I started laughing because, you know, as I've moved into this role of business coach, and Courtney, you can probably relate to this, there really is no business coaching without life coaching. Life coaching and mindset coaching are foundational in business coaching because it's impossible to help people be successful in their business. Maybe not impossible, but limited to help people be successful in their business if you don't help them recognize their own thought patterns and their own emotional hangups that are preventing them from really becoming the best, fullest version of themselves, which is kind of one of those things that people probably roll their eyes at, like, oh, I'm going to be the best version of myself.
Super cheesy.
Yeah, but do you feel like you do that? Do you feel like there is life coaching within your business coaching?
Absolutely. Yeah. I teach in marketing. This is where I'm going to geek out about marketing, is no matter what industry you're in, if you're in this like, you know, personal development, woo-woo kind of whatever world, if you're a health coach, a fitness coach, a business coach, a life coach, whatever thing it is that you decide to go in on, at the core of the coaching like basis of what we're doing is mindset. At the end of the day, right? There's some strategy for like business, right? There's some like physical things like go exercise for health coaching or nutrition, things like that. But at the core of it, humans, in my opinion, we don't really progress without going through the mindset stuff. So it doesn't matter what avenue we're trying to grow ourselves, be it health, food, business, life, love, whatever it is. We don't go and get those things that we're trying to achieve without going through the mindset. So it doesn't matter what kind of coach you are in each industry, you're still going to have to help your clients go through the mindset process.
And so you've had a good amount of experience in listening to people talk about their shit and maybe just holding the mirror for them or providing that space of accountability. If you guys are interested in hearing more of like deep level Courtney's backstory, you need to go listen to her podcast. Court, what's the name of it?
Business of Coaching.
The Business of Coaching. And one of her episodes, she shares her whole backstory. And in that story, she shares that she grew to pretty significant success within her 4 years of first 4 years of working in the coaching industry. I think it was 4 or 5 years, right? And then you reached a point where you were like, I'm too young for this. I'm 22 or 23.
Yep.
And I want to break free. And I don't want, basically you had the opportunity to take a really ridiculous high paying contract and you chose instead to bail out and go bartend, right? Like you were like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
100%.
So I'm curious how those years of bartending maybe parallel what you do now in coaching. Like I kind of, you know, I don't know, Linda, if you were ever in waitressing or bartending or the service industry, but you got to listen to a lot of people's bullshit when you do that. Like especially drunk people, you know, they just hang out and tell you their whole life story. But do you feel like any of what you're doing now in coaching, you maybe actually learned through bartending?
Yes and no. So when I was the day bartender shift during the daytime, I had a lot of people that just wanted to talk. And the sad thing, and I mean, we're all human beings and I have such compassion for all of us, but the sad thing is like the day bartending shifts were always just doom and gloom. It was the hungover people, or it was a lot of, I mean, it's probably based on the type of bar that I worked at, to be honest, but it was a lot of single, or maybe they weren't single, but men, older men that came alone to just talk. And I would have conversations with them, I would entertain them, and then send them on their way. But it just had this like aching loneliness to it. And that was totally different than the night shift. The night shift I worked, it turned into a club at night. So there really wasn't talking. It was most people like were too drunk to actually talk and function. So I kind of saw in bartending the whole sphere of life, from someone who is happy and they're coming in to celebrate life, enjoy and dance and have fun, to people who are kind of at their rock bottom, who kind of gave up on life. And seeing all sides of humanity in a bartending world, if anybody's ever worked in the service industry, you really get a good view on human beings as a whole. The thing that I am so glad to be where I'm at now is that in bartending, I felt like there wasn't a lot of hope. There wasn't a lot of forward progression. There wasn't a lot of like, what do I want to create? What do I want to do with my life? I feel like people kind of sat down at that bar to escape and kind of leave and not think about anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so you're saying people come with maybe a little bit more intention, hopefully a lot more intention to your coaching program, and maybe also less alcohol.
Yeah, a lot less alcohol. But yeah, it's just the human need to want to strive for something else versus the human need to escape and not feel anything. And the parallels are that we're all feeling emotions and we're all going through things. We all want things in life. But if you're doing the steps to develop that and grow in some way, that puts you on the coaching side. And I feel like a lot of the people that end up at a bar at 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, either way, kind of has that feeling of wanting to escape and wanting to leave. And I used to be there, like 100% that I was that person for a long time.
Did you leave coaching altogether during that time, or were you still in it to an extent?
So I was in and out for those few years in between. And there was times at first when I said no to that job, I even fired some of my clients lovingly. I was like, I returned money. I was like, here, take it back. I deleted my website, deleted my Facebook, like no testimonials, photos. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I want to go have fun. Like that's what I thought I needed was fun, which I really just needed a therapist. But I decided to bartend that was probably about 8 months. And then I came back into the online space quietly. I didn't put it out there. I didn't put it on social media, but I had some contacts that I did a few jobs kind of without telling anybody. And I did it for a little bit and then I would drop out again. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. So it was kind of in and out throughout those 11 years. But for that first year, I took it off completely and just bartended. I did quit that bartending job after about a year though. I was running myself into the ground.
Did you have like a big aha turning point where you're like, okay, I'm ready, I'm back to it, your mind felt right?
That actually didn't come until the summer of 2017. So it took me a while. I left the bartending world, kind of dabbled in the online business world quietly, but I got an office job. I was working in the medical field. Remember my nursing school, I used part of what I had accomplished, went back into that, worked a 9-to-5 job that I hated. And I thought that was it. Like that was kind of going to be my life. And nobody knew about my marketing past. Nobody knew that I was like this, badass person that had accomplished all these things. I just didn't talk about it. I was like, I did this social media thing once and I downplayed it completely until I had a friend that came to me saying that she wanted to be a life coach and she needed help and she would beg me to help her. And I'd be like, no. And she'd keep asking. And I'm like, no. And I would give her little tidbits like, oh, try doing this, go do that. And it would work. And she'd come back and be like, more, give me more. And then, so eventually she got me. And I was listening to her coaching calls and I was like, damn, this stuff is good. Like, I forgot that this was good. Like, and then I caught the wind and I was like, I'm really good at this. Like, I forgot how good I could be. I know a lot and I hate my job. Let's be real. I was like, this is miserable. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And at first I kind of put my armor on and I was like, I'm just going to do it and make money. I'm going to kill it, make money off of all these people and be able to quit my job. I wasn't doing it from like a place of love and service and wanting to help people. And that was kind of the turning point. And I was like, I'm going to go all out and make a lot of money and just like not deal with anything. But the more I was in it, the more my heart kind of like started to melt. And I started to come to terms with the fact that I quit before because I had a lot of shame around that. And now I love it. Now it's like what fuels me. And yes, I can make a lot of money with it, but it's also like, I'll never stop doing this. This is what lights me up.
So I'm reading this book right now by David Elliott, who's a healer. And the title of the book is The Reluctant Healer. And he talks about how he had this gift and he just ignored it. Like he was like, nope, not me. Don't have a gift. Right. And the gift pursued him. Like it was like the way life, twisted and turned. He couldn't really avoid it. And I feel like there's a parallel with your story where, you had this gift from a young age, but you needed to go through the experiences that you had, maybe to soften you, maybe to give you more compassion, maybe to help you move through that experience of shame so that you can understand what it feels like for other people to be in that place. Because that is something that, I think a lot of people experience when they become entrepreneurs, especially service-based entrepreneurs. There's these growing pains of like, growing into your duty almost to serve humanity through your gifts. And I said this to someone just this morning, but I feel like what I was saying was something that has been planted in me from you, Court, where like, when I signed on with you, I had the gifts for a long time and I'd had the ability to help people for a long time. And my resistance to it was really wrapped up in like worthiness and also just not feeling like, who am I? Who am I to stick my flag in the sand and say like, I'm a coach and I can help you, right? There's just that one sentence, I can help you. I say we in like kind of the collective we, but there's so much resistance, particularly in women, to like owning your gifts and saying that you are the person who can help another person for money. Right? It's like, we'll help you all day long for free. Like, you want me to come over, like clean your house and watch your dog and your kid and like give of myself for free, no problem. But to get me to the point where I can say, yes, I will help you. And it costs this much money for me to help you. Why do you think, I think we're socially and culturally conditioned into that as women, that it's like we're supposed to be nice. But what is your magic that you worked on me to flip the switch and that I see you work with other women? Do you know what it is? How is it that you help us flip the switch to saying like, hey, you can make money from this and you deserve to make money from this?
I think there's a few factors. I don't know the exact answer, but the one biggest thing is that I already do that, right? You took a chance and invested in yourself on me, right? So you therefore paid me. So what you were able to do for yourself, you're then able to turn around to your own clients and say, okay, now you do this for yourself, right? So the act of you doing that is one thing, right? So if you're doing something, it's easier to hold other people to that standard because you've already done it, right? So that was the first barrier.
Like have a coach.
Have a coach, exactly. So if you're able to invest and hire someone to help you, then you're able to turn around and be like, yeah, this is just what you do, right? Because I've already done it. Like, I know this works because I'm doing it. So all of you that want to work with me, you can now do that as well. So that's probably the first one. The second one is choosing a coach that is actually doing the things that you're struggling with, right? So I was the embodiment of someone who is able to say, I'll give you my all. I will give you everything I've got within reason. And yes, you need to invest in yourself. Yes, you need to pay me for that time, but I've got you. I will help you and I will love you up. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. I think where people, the collective, have an issue with it is because at our core, we all know that we would do those things to help anybody else out for free because we care that much. And that is where I think a lot of us have that guilt of like, well, I would do that. I would absolutely, like, of course, like if you called me at any time, I would be like, I will help you. I will give you the answer and you can get paid for that. And in order for you, here's the thing, right? And this is where it's like a mind, I don't know how much I can swear on here. It's a mind trick.
Have you listened to our show? You go right ahead.
I'll say it's a mind fuck to think about the fact that you are able to charge people for the work that you need to do in the world. Because if you have this calling, I'm going to say, if any of you that are listening to this podcast or follow you two on here, you have been called for something more, whether you're acting on it, whether you're listening to that thought in the back of your head, whether you're like shoving it down, you're like, no, stay quiet, right? You have that kind of feeling in your gut, right? So if that is happening to you, like, too late, you felt it, just own it. That's the thing. And in order to do that work that you are being called to do, that you have in your gut, whether you know what it is or not, you have that feeling. In order to do that, you have to have financial stability in order to do the work in the world that you need to do.
Amen, girl, preach.
Yeah.
Take us to church.
There's no way, in my opinion, right? You can help some people for free, absolutely. To hit the amount of people, to work with the masses, or even to really change people's lives for long term, you have to have financial abundance to support yourself in order to do the work that you want to be doing. And if you're putting all of your time away at a 9 to 5 and even a second gig to pay for all of this so that you can help people for free, where's your time to do that? Right? And so people are willing, clearly, I'm willing, you guys are willing to invest in your coaches, your mentors, I am too. People are willing to invest and put money down in order to change their lives. They exist, they're out there, I've seen it, and they're willing to pay good money for that as well. So in my opinion, it is, the coaching industry has created its own economy. It's its own bubble, it's its own industry. And I used to think like, oh, that's so bad. Like we're just paying each other, all of us. But we're also paying each other and we're growing and becoming better human beings and helping more people. So I say embrace
the
it.
Ultimate ripple effect. And when you said financial stability, it's like, and even beyond, right? Like that's the beginning, is for the stability and, you know, claiming financial thriving and really like the badass life that, you know, each of us continue to step into more and more and more. And then your reach stretches. And I have this huge aha in my finance career, but I'm like, God, like money can be such a stress. And this is like the silent killer stress caused by money. And like, what an easy way to eradicate stress, be in a career that you love and create more abundance than you ever thought possible. But it's like, you know, through programming and certainly the mindset piece that we've talked ourselves into, we can talk ourselves into a different, you know, life that doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I think we're all raised with our money story, all of us. I have money stuff too. Like I'm not completely out of that either. I still come up with myself all the time with money objections or money fears or, you know, and I start like going on the money side. I'm like, okay, I need more, right? Or like, when's it going to come, right? That energy. And I still have to work on that. But it's also like knowing that our programming of our money story can change. That absolutely can change.
One of the biggest epiphanies and things that I feel like I learned from you or with you, Courtney, was as I started to make a lot of money working with you, I shared with you at one point, like, hey, I feel like I'm spending at a rate that's like just as fast as I'm making, if not greater. And you said, well, yeah, you're an addict. And I was like, well, yeah. And so, you know, and so our listeners know my backstory and they know that whether it's been alcohol or drugs or sex or spending, that I have in me this impulsivity, you know, to to avoid feelings by like replacing them with something else, or to self-medicate. And you can self-medicate through spending. You know, spending gives you a dopamine hit. When you go and buy that thing on Amazon Prime, or you go and buy yourself that cute pair of jeans, or you're like, treat yourself. I'm going to treat myself today, right? Like that can come from a healthy place. Yes. And then there's also times that it can come from a place of lack, or of feeling something that you don't want to be feeling. So let's cover it up with spending. And so when you called me out and you were like, yeah, now you're making all this money and now you're spending all this money because, you know, you're an addict and you have something in you that you don't want to be feeling. And could it possibly be, you know, related to your money story, to like a fear of success? And at first that was really perplexing to me. But as I started to consider it, what I realized was that I did form a story. And that story was like growing up without, you know, a ton of money, being quite comfortably middle class. And then around age 10, 11, you know, my dad got a new job, and that new job, he was making a lot of money, and we bought a really nice house. And after we bought that really nice house and we moved there, and we had a life that felt more abundant, more rich, like it seemed like we had more money, my dad cheated on my mom and left after 23 years of marriage and met somebody else, right? And without ever realizing it, literally until a few months ago, you guys, I formed a story that said financial success comes before the destruction of relationships. It's not safe for me to have a lot of money, because when I have a lot of money, or when, you know, my family, this thing has a lot of money, then something's going to fall apart. And so let me hurry up and get rid of this money so that I'm not unsafe, right? And so the invitation that you provided to like examine that, and just the invitation of like, there's something in your story, in your past, whether it's with your parents or whatever, at some point you formed this story that it's not safe for me to have a lot of money. And it was so incredible, because by helping me see that, you also gave me an invitation into like my storytelling on the whole. And like, anytime I find myself in that kind of sticky place of like, why am I doing this thing? Why am I doing this action? Why am I sabotaging myself? Why am I harming myself in this way? To look at the story, right? And so like in this interview, we talked about how owning your story is really a huge part of what's going to make you successful. Any of you who are listening, in any service industry, in anything where you are part of your brand, you are part of your business, owning your story is like foundational to success. So I think the question that I'm leading to is like, how can people start to recognize their story? Like, where do we get the self-awareness? How can we start to see that we have a story, you know, with this personal development, all this personal development crap? Like, how do we start to work on that? What would you tell someone?
Okay. Well, one, in my opinion, really, like I couldn't do this without coaching, like without having my own coaches. And I mean, in my opinion, I have one of the best, and a lot of her teachings I have passed along to you, and you to her, and to your people, and it continues the ripple effect there. So in my opinion, I mean, I think I'll just call it myself. Like I'm kind of meat-headed. I'm kind of thick sometimes, and I can't see outside of myself. And so it takes somebody else to be like, hello, Courtney, this is what you're doing. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Like, yes, Courtney, look at what you're doing. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. It takes that for me personally. Right. So having a coach that's there to recognize those things, and it does take a coach that's already done the work. Right? You have to have somebody that has gone before you, because they're able to recognize the things, right? That's where I was able to recognize that in you. My money story is different than yours, but I could recognize the signs of self-sabotage. Because here's one thing, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but as addicts, we have the tendency to fight. We are fighters. If you're going to get through addiction and change your life, you've got some kind of grit in you to survive, right? I mean, you do, you've looked at the bottom of the barrel basically, and you've picked yourself up and you've made it through, but we almost become attached to that fighter mentality, and let's blow shit up so that we can fight back and overcome, because success is too scary. I know like what's comfortable is this chaos and blowing things up. So I've done that. And so when I could see you doing that, Amelia, you started to do that, I could call you out on it. So one is working with a coach, someone that has already walked the steps before you so that they can see that. The other thing, I mean, I'm not against therapy at all. I have a therapist as well, so you can have a second person that way, but it is constantly putting yourself in this work of self-discovery. And one of the biggest lessons for me is I was kind of cocky 6 months ago. I will be honest, it's that recent for me. I was pretty cocky and I was like, yeah, I've done a lot of mindset work. I've healed my childhood wounds. Like, I'm good. I'm really good. Like, I'm good. I'm so good. Like, I've done all of that work, right? And I would walk into events and I'd be like, yep, done it. Yeah, I've done this, like, staring into somebody's eyes and, shouting all of your anger things at them and being seen and all of that nitty gritty personal growth work. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then I started working with another coach and she started really digging around and I was like, okay, I'm not good. And I was like, it was like touching a wound, like a wide gaping wound. And she just like stuck her fist in that and like just cranked it. And I was like, oh my God, there's so much more. And so for me, like my warning sign to say to everybody is if you think you're good, if you think you've done a lot of work, and you may have, absolutely. I know both of you probably have done a lot of work, but if we ever get to a point where we're like, yeah, I've done so much work and I'm a really healthy person and I have nothing to work on. Hello, red flag. Like you're probably the person who needs it more than anybody. And that was me about 6 months ago. And I got,
if you're not growing, you're dying.
Exactly. Like there's always more. There's always more. And our layers of us, our childhood wounds, the things that have created us, yes, you'll work through it. But once you get through that, there's more to work through. And so if you're going to go on this path of personal growth, like you can stop at any point, absolutely. But know that the work never ends. Like there's always going to be something more. I don't know if that even answered your question.
Like, well, that's fun.
Yeah. It's not fun. It's not easy. It's not like enjoyable at all. But it's like kind of this twisted human beings that were like, oh, let's figure out what that's about. Like, that's a trigger. What's that? And you start to go through it and then you're in the middle of it. You're like, I want to die. Like, this is so painful. And then you kind of get over it and you realize how far you've come and you look back and you're like, this is so worth it. And then the next thing comes and it's that process again. So it's kind of a sick individual that like loves to do this.
It's like the constant leveling up, right?
Oh, always. It is a never ending level up of life. That is great. And it's really hard.
When you think of like what makes a great coach, I mean, it sounds like that would be your answer, but what do you think is like the secret?
Okay. So yes, what I just said, having a coach that's constantly doing the work. And I'm not perfect. Like I fall out of it all the time. I was out of it last week, honestly. And then I had to go to my coach and she had to call me out and I'm like, okay, yep, you're right. And then I'm back into it. Right. And so I abandon that and come back to it. And so the more I am committed to staying in the work, the more I can hold my clients to stay in the work and therefore their clients and the ripple effect can grow. The other thing that also makes a good coach, this is bigger than anything, a good human being, honestly, but is 100% honesty and truth and vulnerability. If you cannot ask your coach anything you want, if they put up those walls, if there's barriers to things that they won't share, that's a red flag to me. Like ask them. Even if like I tell people on sales calls and I'm like, ask me what you want to know. Like really, there's really nothing that's off limits because this is the real deal. Like if you want to learn how to grow a business, if you want to do this personal growth or anything like this, like you need to know what it actually looks like. And so the things that you're curious about, ask them, because if they're not willing to share, how is that coach being in integrity and having the best idea of what they want to bring you to? You know what I mean? They're more concerned about them and their self-serving and kind of hiding their secrets rather than saying like, yeah, this is like the things that I've shared with Amelia are super vulnerable and honestly things that I don't want to share and talk about. But I also knew for me to hold her to that light, I had to go first and I had to open the door for her and say, okay, this is what my vulnerability looks like. This is what it really looks like on the inside for me. And now you can do this too for her people.
I think that has been one of the most impactful, I'm going to say the most impactful thing that you've taught me. And the reason is that I very much, and I think this is where actually my biggest area of weakness or growth opportunity is that I thought that in order to be a good coach, I had to look a certain way and like look perfect, right? It's that perfectionism creeping in. And I thought like, well, shit, if I'm going to get people to part with like many thousands of their dollars to work with me, they better think that I have it together. Right. But, and you know, the reality is that as I've started to really listen to people, both podcast listeners and, you know, my audience on social media and my real clients and retreat guests and teacher training guests, the universal compliment that I receive or accolade or the thing that people tell me, you know, what makes you different or why I love you or why I knew I wanted to come or why I knew I wanted to work with you. And it's consistent. The language is a little bit different, but what they say is you're real, you're vulnerable, you're authentic, you're honest, you tell the truth, you're so raw. Like this is what I hear over and over and over. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm finally, like, you know, you said you're a little meat-headed. Like, I'm like, maybe I'm slow too, because it's taken me years to finally hear it and go, oh, they're saying the same thing. And this is where I think coaching is really cool compared to therapy. And I'm going to compare them because I believe they are two different things. I believe therapy is a really safe one-way container where like your therapist is going to keep the boundary of like their own personal life, their own shit, their own emotions, their own past. And you're not going to have access to behind the curtain on that. And so they can help you from that professional perspective. The difference with coaching is that you are going to pull back the curtain. A great coach will pull back the curtain. And in so doing, you'll see that you're not alone. And that's really, I think, one of the most healing things that we can experience is seeing, oh, this person that I just put on a pedestal, this person that I admire so much, this person who's accomplished what I want to accomplish, and they have the money and they have what I want, and they're like me. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it's possible for me, even with all my shit, to maybe become like them, right? And that's like what, you know, what I think is so beautiful about coaching. And I was that person who thought that coaching was like this gross, like not like pyramid scheme, but like I had my thoughts about network marketing too, but like both network marketing and coaching, I was like, those are just so slimy and it's just people taking other people's money. And, you know, be careful what you judge, you guys, because now here I find myself in coaching and in network marketing, and in both of them finding so much value and so much room for growth and ability to help other people heal and heal myself at the same time. So, man, it's some good shit, you know?
I agree. I was the same. I was like, network marketing is awful. Coaching is awful. It's this bubble and they're all just making each other broke because they're taking money from each other and nobody's actually healing or changing anything. But I will say, here's the difference is like, it takes some time to figure out who is a good coach. There's a lot of coaches out there doing things that are not helpful. There's a lot of coaches out there coaching to what they have done, their abilities. And their abilities, and I'm like, this is going to sound whatever, I don't know how to say it without saying it. There's a lot of coaches who just want to teach affirmations. Mm-hmm. And as long as you have positive thoughts and you think positive and you don't feel anything bad, like it's going to come. Trust me, now pay me. Right? and that's like, they're on their way. They're on their journey. And you can kind of get a feel. And that's where I say, like, ask questions and say, like, what makes you a good coach? Are you in the work? Do you have a coach right now? What are you doing to grow yourself? Those are questions that I would ask any coach. Ask them how much money they make, if that's important to you, of to know, like, because we're in the business side of things, right? So I want a business coach that is already making decent money where I want to go to, right? So asking those things of them.
Call it out. You want them to make a lot more money than you. I want my coach to make a lot more money than me.
Exactly. So when I'm like searching for a coach right now, I'm like, I want multiple 7 figures for a business coach. Like that's where my next level is, where I'm trying to take this. And so the coach that I'm hiring, talking to right now is multiple 7 figures, like already has $1 million in the bank, right? So that's where I'm going with it. But for you, if you guys are searching for a coach and to know, it's like, are the people that you're looking at playing a small game? Are they spitting out affirmations and life quotes and content pieces, information that they have taken from other people and claiming it as their own and just re-spitting that out? Or Are they coming up with their own information? Are they doing the work every single day? Are they working with a coach? Are they doing this deep life meditation, like personal growth, mindset work, childhood wounds, right? All of these things that kind of are the core of this mindset work. Ask them. Ask them. And if you get the deer in the headlights look or the silence, that's your answer.
Run. Run.
Okay. You're not my coach. I'm going to keep searching. So keep searching for those coaches that you can tell are actually doing the work. Again, I forgot the question. I went on a
That's okay. I think we got somewhere in there. Well, that's a good segue. I want to know, like, you know, as a marketing expert, and especially as one who has, like you said, you started over from scratch and you started over with a comparatively small audience in a landscape where there is a massive perception that you have to have a huge audience to be successful, financially successful. And there's a huge perception with all, not just coaches, you guys, everybody that I speak to, new entrepreneurs and service-based businesses, I hear it all the time. Well, I can't do that because I only have X number of followers, or I
would even say product-based too.
Yes, true. You're right. Product-based business, but like any startup entrepreneurs, they feel like I can't do it if I don't have certain numbers. And I know what my, you know, take is on that. And a lot of it has to do with like, get your ass out in the real world and have real conversations with real people and get out from behind your phone, because like there's a whole world out there. Like talk to the checker at the grocery store, talk to the person at the coffee shop, talk to humans, real people in the real world. It's like, there's this, you know, this set up a booth at the farmer's market, like join the freaking Kiwanis Club. I don't even know what that is, but go join it. You know what I mean? Like, but I think that what people want to hear is, well, within making money with a small audience, like what's the secret? How do I start to reach people online when I have 300 followers, 500 followers, 1,000 followers? How do I make money with those people? Courtney, what is the secret to the universe?
Okay. First of all, I just have to like say I love you for saying that about like go talk to people. And I mean, I'm one of the most introverted humans that I know. Like, I don't like to talk to a lot of people. Like, let's just be honest about it. I'm really introverted. So like going out to the grocery store checkout line and having a conversation with that person is like, I mean, I'd pretty much rather do anything other than doing that. And it works. I will say it works. So if you're using that as your excuse of like, I'm too shy, but I can't go talk to people. Like, how does that work? Like, nobody wants to talk to me. Like, get over yourself. If you really want this dream bad enough, you'll do those things. Soapbox over on that one. So the online audience thing, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. When I came back into the online space a year and a half ago, I had nothing. Like I said, I deleted all of it. So there was no proof other than my own word and a couple pictures that I had ever worked online. And I came back and I started looking for all of those people that I used to work with 10 years before, and they were gone. Wow. There was a few of them left, but like pretty much everyone had left. And you think about it, like people here, you know, restaurants or any business actually, they mostly fail. Like entrepreneurship is really hard. Most people quit, especially in the coaching industry. I read once that 2% of all coaching businesses actually survive. Most quit. That's a huge percent. Like 98% end up quitting. And I've seen that firsthand. So when I came back, nobody knew me. So I had to make a name for myself. Like nobody gave a shit that I had all of this experience. They were like, okay, but you have no proof. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I had to start from scratch. I used my Facebook profile and my Instagram, and both of which I had like 100 friends. They were real friends, like that had no interest in my business. Some family members. I had a private account with some pictures of some mountains and like hiking pictures, like nothing about business at all. So I truly was starting from scratch again. And I knew that I could monetize a small audience, but it was going to take a lot of work to get myself there. But for perspective, I started probably in January, like really going hard. And by June or July, I had made $50,000. It took those 6 months of making like $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. And then by like month 6 or 7, it made like 50 grand, like all of a sudden overnight, it grew. I did that with an audience of 3,000 people. 3,000 combined of Facebook and Instagram. So it wasn't even like I had them all in one place. So to show what's possible, that's where I say, like, you can make good money with a small audience.
Was the secret polarizing content? Was the secret in like having a perfect call to action? Was the secret in, you know, being vulnerable? What's the secret, Court? What do you tell us everything?
So one was knowing who my people were, like who were the people that are actually going to buy from me were other coaches. So I went out and found them. I started adding them as Facebook friends, which I know is scary, but I did it and I didn't care. And I put hours and hours into it. So I added them as friends. On Instagram, I would go find other coaches and follow them and comment on their stuff and engage with them and have conversations and actually stay like up to date with their lives. And I invested that time into prospective people. I didn't get up in their DMs or anything like that, but I just like followed them and supported them. And I nurtured that over time. And slowly I had more and more followers to hit that 3,000. So one, you got to go out and find them. You have to do the work. It's like the grocery checkout line. You have to go out and be the one who does it and talks. Luckily we have Instagram, so you can hide behind the phone too. But that's the first one, go out and find them. The second one, vulnerability, sharing the story. And this is where it's scary. It's so scary to do this, but I put everything out there. I shared all of my stories. I have maybe 2 stories that I'm hiding right now that I'm like still, they're healing, they're processing that I haven't put out. But like pretty much everything. I've shared my history of an eating disorder, of drug addiction, of alcoholism, of quitting my job, of what that actually looked like. And I said, I was like, I'm going to name the elephant in the room. And I'm going to say the obvious. I'm going to say like, hey, yeah, I quit my business and I'm back. I had shame. I went to therapy. I went to like outpatient rehab. I did all of those things and I'm still here today. So there's a way of sharing your vulnerability and your story in a way that still puts you and positions you as a leader, as someone to look up to, but you're still vulnerable. So you're coming off across as someone who is human, as someone who's also struggled and been through something or is currently struggling with something, but I can still help you with your problems. And in an industry that there's so many coaches, I mean, there's a ton, like in the real world, a lot of people don't know about this like coaching bubble, but once you're in the bubble, you're like, oh my God, there's literally like 50,000 and we're all saying the same thing.
Advisors.
Everybody kind of looks the same. We're talking about the same thing. Like, there's no space for me. And I mean, yes and no. I'm of the personality that I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of them, but I'm going to be the best. I'm going to make sure I am that 2% out of that 100, you know, that 98%, they're going to quit. And I know that because I've already seen that. I know that 98% of the people that are watching me or doing their things right now, they're not going to make it. And like, I love, like so much love to them, but I know I'm the 2% because I'm not going to quit this thing again. So it's knowing that. It's knowing that what sets apart that 2% is the ones who are doing things differently. It is the ones who are brave enough to put their stories out there and share what they've been through, because that's the only thing that sets you apart. That's the only thing that is going to make you different nowadays than any other Joe Schmo like life coach that's out there, because we're all doing the same thing.
So I have to ask you a clarifying question about that, because this is something that I've had clients struggle with, friends struggle with. I personally haven't struggled with it. And maybe Linda, maybe you'll be able to speak to this, but what about the people who feel like they don't have any stories or they didn't overcome anything bad or wrong or dark, and so therefore they feel like they feel a sense of insecurity, inadequacy, and not good enough because their life is pretty okay, because things have always been good. And I mean, I'm laughing, but I've genuinely had people say to me like, well, I could never be a coach, or I could never, you know, I feel like I don't have anything to post on social media because I feel like the people who really get a lot of followers are those who have this polarizing content. We use that term, and if you guys don't know what it means stuff that where there's contrast. It means saying like, I was here and now I'm here, or like, here's the stuff that's kind of dark or shameful or a secret, but I'm going to share it with you. And for the people who feel like, yeah, life has just always been kind of good. I've always gotten good grades. I've never lied. I've never stolen. I've never done any drugs. I've never done anything bad. And so therefore I can't help anyone. Like, what would you tell that person?
I have these people too. I have them as my clients as well. And they say the same thing. And I'm like, don't shame yourself for having a good life. First of all, what a messed up kind of situation that we're in, that they're like, I'm not fucked up enough to do this, right? They're like, I want more story. And I'm like, I could give you some tips to go like screw some shit up, give you a good story to tell. But one is like, just because you haven't found yourself with like an addiction or some traumatic past does not mean you can't help other people. You can be called to help people without having to find rock bottom yourself. Like 100%, I believe that. There is still a story to this person out there that is listening. There is absolutely still a story. Nobody goes through life without having an issue.
Yeah.
So this person that's out there saying like, I don't have anything, like nothing's been that wrong. And I've had that with these clients, and I'm like, I'm going to crack into you. And I like, it kind of excites me, to be honest. But when I hear that, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to like crack you open. We're going to find out what that is, because I don't care who you are. I don't care how great your life is. You've been through something. All of us have, right? Whether you are realizing it is as traumatic as it was, or if you're kind of stuffing it down, it doesn't mean that your story isn't valid, even if it's not as traumatic or dramatic as my story. It's still your story. It's still part of the journey that got you to where you are. And here's the thing, people that are attracted to me, like you, Amelia, have been through like addiction or severe mental health or like problems, right? Where they're like had to like grit and make it through life and survive. It's survival basically. Because I share that story, I have a lot of people that have gone through that as well, and they're attracted to me. Yeah. Just as the person who hasn't had a crazy ass story like that, who's like, yeah, I grew up with loving parents that were healthy. I did everything exactly the way I'm supposed to do it in life, and life is good and I'm happy. That there are more people out there who are going to be attracted to you and your story because they attract the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. It's sharing that. And maybe that is like, that can be the story too, of saying like, I've had shame that I've had a perfect life.
Yeah, I think, Linda, go.
No, I think that there's probably a lot of people that can relate to that feeling of wanting there to be something to kind of fuck up, and they're like kind of sitting on the edge and they don't have to do that. But like you said, like there is something there. And I think what happens a lot is like the awareness may not be yet. And I think, Courtney, that's what you're saying. Like you want to get there and crack it open. And when you don't know what your issue is until you know what your issue is, you're not talking about your issue because you don't know you have an issue. And maybe that's when a great coach can help you see your issue.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been through pain. Right. We've all been through struggle. We've all overcome something. I don't care what to degree.
And I think we live in a time where a lot of people feel so disconnected from their feelings that like they maybe never lived in pain because they suppressed it and never felt it and didn't even know they were doing that the whole time. And like the pain is on such deeper traumatic levels of their whole lifetime, you know, and it's like, you know, really peeling back the layers of that.
So I love that you brought that up. And this is this is a newer story, and I won't get into it too much just because time wise, but even for me, and I've done so much work. Like, I mean, I've literally had 12 therapists and psychologists throughout my life. Like I've been through a lot. I've done a lot of the work, and that's where my cocky attitude came through. And I was like, oh, I'm good. And then I had reached this point in my business where I was making good money. I hit my financial goal, and I looked around and I was like, okay, what now? Like I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything. And then I was at an event and I had clients lining up to take photos with me. Like at the photo, I was like that mini celebrity where people were like, I want to take a photo with you. Can I take a photo with you? Can I take a photo? And like crying, like you've changed my life. Thank you so much. And I was like, I feel nothing. Like I can't feel the person looking at me right now. I can't feel their emotions. I can't feel myself being excited. I could feel my ego. I'll be honest about that. My ego was like, look at all these people. Like, great. But like, other than that, I couldn't feel it. And I was like, ooh, something's wrong. Something's wrong here. And so that's where I started searching for my next coach. And I was like, if I can't feel the state that I'm at right now, I'm not going to feel this when I hit 7 figures. I'm not going to feel this when I hit the next level of growth. Like, am I going to keep going through my life not feeling things? And so it took me working with someone else again, going back into the work again and digging around and figuring out why I couldn't feel. Because exactly what you just said, I had put so many walls, brick walls, like around my heart, basically to protect me from not feeling anything because I thought I was good and that was safe. And so I started peeling those back, and it was so painful, still is so painful every day, but I can feel it now. But it takes that awareness of saying like, oh, I thought I was feeling this whole time, but I'm actually not feeling anything. I'm kind of just going through life, kind of numbed out, but I'm doing things, so I must be okay. But really, it took that awareness of finally reaching my goals to look around and be like, I can't feel a damn thing.
I remember feeling angry for the first time, and this was like 2 years ago, and I was like, this is so uncomfortable, but I'm feeling angry. Like, yes, I'm feeling what angry feels like. And I'm like, oh shit, there's probably a lot more feelings than this one to feel.
Yep. Oh my God. Yeah. Like nowadays, like even this morning, I was like, does this ever end? Like, I'm exhausted. I'm so exhausted of feeling emotions. Like it's all over the place. Like, how can I feel so many things at the same time? But for me, it's really a journey of like being able to feel this many emotions all the time, because I have just for so long just had myself on autopilot where I was like, do, don't feel. So yeah, you start like to break it down and feeling those things, and you realize there's so much more there. You think you don't have a story, you think you don't have anything going on, but there's so much going on below the surface.
Yeah, I feel that smirk of like, what are we gonna do with this one? Let's see what's going on there.
Yep.
Courtney, if you could give, your top 3 marketing tips that you could share with our listeners, and maybe you can only do top 5 or top 2, but what comes to you if you were to say bullet pointed, try this, this, and this?
Okay. Biggest one, I think it's kind of obvious from what we've been talking about, vulnerability. Put your story out there. Start with baby steps. You don't have to put it all out there. I started small and worked my way up. I started with the business stuff, and then I got into addiction stuff, and then I got into like, this is what's happening to me right now, and it's really fucking painful, and oh my God. But I worked my way up to it. I started with, hey, I quit my business someday, like back in the day, right? So work your way up to it, but start being real, start being honest. If it makes you want to throw up and you're going to like you have the vulnerability, like the butterflies, follow that. Go into that and do those things, no matter how difficult and painful it is, go do that. So that's the first one. The second one is, if you're building a business and you're wanting to market your services online, whether it's product, whether it's coaching, whatever it is, 80% of your time should be spent on audience growth. I think this is the biggest thing, especially when you guys are starting out and it's scary, that we want to hide behind the scenes. We want to hide behind the phone. We want to like I'm guilty of it. I want to like make big whiteboards and like posters with all these plans and ideas and spend all this time reading books. And books are great, like learn, but implement, go do the things. So 80% of your time should be spent on audience growth. So doing podcast interviews, connecting with people, talking to people. If you're not spending 80% of your day talking to people and networking and growing your audience, like you're doing it wrong. Because if you spend all of that time behind the scenes building the back end, I see a lot of people, it's one of my pet peeves. I'm going to build a free e-course. I'm going to do a PDF. I'm going to do this book thing. I'm going to write and make all of this content and things behind the scenes. And then it's going to be my best thing ever. And they put it out there and nobody's doing anything. Nobody buys it.
Because there's nobody to see it.
Nobody's there, right? So it's easy to hide behind the scenes and be like, this is the best thing I've ever done. But that's actually not the best thing you're ever going to do. The best thing you're ever going to do is grow that audience. Like Amelia, you have such a huge, great audience that by the time you were ready, which you were beyond ready, but by the time you were ready to start coaching clients at a high level, you had people there. Mm-hmm. That's why you could make so much money so quickly, is because you have a huge audience, because you spent that time building those people out versus being on the back end of like planning and scheming and thinking. So 80% work on audience growth, building your community, 20% can be on the back end.
And a note on that maybe doesn't need to be clarified, but we're going to go ahead and clarify it anyway. When we say audience growth, you grow by giving. So you got to be giving something to those people. And I might be stealing Courtney's next tip, but like what she's saying about my audience is like, yeah, there's, 50 something thousand people, because for 4 years, for 5 years, I didn't even really think about, I mean, I periodically would sell to them, here's this retreat or here's this training you can come to. But for the most part, it was like, let me just give to you. Let me give you connection. Let me give you fitness tips. Let me give you yoga sequences. Let me just give and give and give. And it wasn't even, I didn't even know that I was doing it, but like, that is how you grow. And like, for me, it was even simpler than giving. It was just loving people. Like, they comment, I comment back. Like, I go say something to them, like remembering that they're humans behind the screen, you know, they're not numbers, they're not robots. Like, they're real people just like you, looking for that little hit of dopamine just like you from when someone double taps their picture or leaves a comment or says, hey, I see you. So when you're thinking about growing, just remember that you're growing. And I love to say this to people. If you have 300 followers, I want you to really, truly imagine right now that there's 300 people standing in your yard in front of your house. Like, there's 300 people out there that are watching you. It's a lot of people, man. And like, we're so desensitized to it because of the way social media works that we're like, I don't have 1 million people standing in my yard, so therefore I can't do anything. It's like, 1 million people couldn't fit in your yard or your neighborhood, or like, it's a crazy.
I can't even see you.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, okay. So be real and honest and master vulnerability, focus on audience growth. What else?
I mean, you kind of just said it. I had a feeling you were going to say it anyway, but this is even like, it feels weird to claim it as my work because it was from my coach too. Like, my coach is Tracy O'Malley, and she's the one who taught me this. And then I'm the one who taught you it too. And then if you're going to pass it down to your people, you probably already have too. So it's, for me, it's like, oh my God, that's the ripple effect. Like, that is why we're all here. So basically what we're talking about is serving. It's actually giving a shit that these are real people. I think it's really easy for us, as we kind of talked about the money stuff to begin with. When you bring money into the picture, it gets really complicated because we get greedy. I don't care who you are, whether you want the money or you don't. It's like a weird thing where we're like, ooh, can I get more? And the second we have that feeling of like getting, it screws up everything. And I'm still guilty of it. Like, still all the time. Like, last week I was like, oh, okay, I got to call myself out on it here. Like, oh, we're doing it again, Courtney, come back, reel it back in. The moment you can show up to your 300 people standing in that yard and think, what can I do and what can I say to help them today? With no agenda. Like, how can I just be of service to them? I don't, like, whatever your beliefs are, God, universe, or nothing at all. As human beings, how can I just serve them and be somebody in the world who has helped somebody feel better or be better or give somebody an opportunity? If I can show up with that energy in all of the things that I do, the money comes. That's how I can let go of the fact that I'm going to make 7 figures. I am 100%. Like, we're all going to hit our goals, but I have to know that that is there and I'm working towards it. But I can let go of that because I know the second I step into serving and actually giving a shit about the people that are facing back at me, those 300 people that look at my feed every day, as long as I care about them and I show up in integrity, the money comes. It always does.
It's funny as you say that, because I'm like, if every one of those 300 people were clients, like, your business would be booming. And so it's like looking at whether 300, 50,000, like, these could all be my clients one day, and I want to love them just as though they are now, versus like, it's not 1 million. What does that even mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, I have a small audience and I've made more money than all of my clients. Like, but like, that's the proof. So that's my 3 things, basically. So be vulnerable, share your stories, be human, because people want to feel human, right? We're all these, like, you know, fake looking Instagram accounts, and you're like, I can't feel you. Like, if you can't feel my pulse, this is so dramatic, but this is music. I'm getting all fired up. But if you cannot feel my pulse coming through on my Instagram posts or my stories, and you can't feel my vulnerability and my real grit and humanness, then I'm doing something wrong. I want you to know what this feels like. I want you to know what I feel like. I want you to feel like you're sitting right next to me, having this conversation with me. That's the first thing that's going to set you apart, because people want real. They want to trust a real person that they feel like they can know. The second one, more strategic, but spend more time growing that audience and building that. The third one is actually give a shit and care about them. If people can feel like you actually care and you're not there to just make a quick buck and ditch them and leave, Like if they feel like you've got them, that's the thing. Like if you're a pillar of strength, that's like someone told me that compliment once and I was like, oh, I love that. A pillar of strength is somebody that you are okay with putting your money with. A pillar of strength is someone you're okay with being vulnerable with. A pillar of strength is someone that you can say, I am struggling today and how do I get out of this? Because you know that they're going to put their hand out there and help you back up. So if I can be that person, someone's going to trust me. Top 3.
Just love you, Courtney.
Just
love you. All right. We do a book club every week, and we want to hear what is your favorite book or a book that you find transformative that everybody should go read. Take us to the book club.
The book club. So this is my, always my favorite. I actually don't even have any copies now because I've given them all out. It's called The Invitation by Oriah. I think it's like Oriah Mountain Dreamer or something like that. But it's a poem called The Invitation. And the book is like chapters based off of each little section of the poem. So you can Google the poem if you want to read it. It's kind of long, but it's beautiful. And I'm a hardcore, rough around the edges, mostly. Like you can hear me getting fired up. But when I read this book, it drops me down so far into my soul. The poem, it just brings me back to why we're all doing this and what kind of human do I want to be. So it's more of a poem book. It's a short read, but it's kind of like a little daily devotional thing that I'll just flip to a page and read certain pieces of it. It's beautiful.
Do you have it in front of you right now? Because I do. No.
Oh, you do?
I'm going to share with you guys just the last a few lines of this poem. And it says, "It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you'll stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me what or where or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments." So good. So good. And it's I'm better than that if you read the whole thing. So Courtney, it's been such a joy having you on the show. I'm so blessed to have you as my coach. You really have changed my life and continue to change my life. I hope that you can feel it. You guys, if you're listening, Courtney has an incredible group coaching program that's available for coaches and for business development. She also obviously does one-on-one coaching, which is what I do. And if you guys want to connect with her further, go follow her on Instagram. It's at Court Baker. And you can also find her at Court Baker or CourtneyBaker.com.
Court Baker.
At CourtBaker.com. So go love her up, go get to know her. If you're ready to move forward with your coaching business, she is the business coach for coaches. She will help you. Please go check her out. Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. We'll be dropping another gem next week. We're always dropping those gems weekly, so that you can thrive daily. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today on another episode of Rise to Thrive podcast. We are so stoked that you're here. If you loved today's episode, if it helped you, please share it with a friend, snap a screenshot, tag us on stories at Rise to Thrive podcast, or head to iTunes or Spotify and leave us an honest review. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And until next time, keep rising, keep thriving. See you next time.